Dr. Julia Garcia is a cultural behavioral scientist and doctor of psychology. She is a speaker, a sought after speaker, and an author. Her newest book is The Five Habits of Hope. Welcome to the show, Dr. Julia.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, excited to have you on. Tell us a little bit about your personal life, some more about your work, and what motivated you to write the book.
Oh, well, you know, I was never someone who thought I would write a book about hope. I did not take the concept seriously. I was like, there is no way I'm going to write about something like that. It is fluffy. No, just I was not like someone who thought I would be aligned with that topic. I started out, I'm a from Phoenix, so that's where you're at, George, and I am a desert rat, is what I say. And I grew up in a place where people didn't look like me or were from where I was from who were doing the things I aspired to do. And so my journey of, speaking and writing and in academia and all of those things, it was really something that wasn't expected for someone like me. And it's been a journey that has a lot of lows and a lot of highs and sideways turns, and but it's all led me to do really work that I'm passionate about, and that's working with people from all different kinds of backgrounds and demographics on things they struggle with and coming alongside them and helping them build a process back to hope. Because when we don't have hope, it is I'm sure if you're listening, if you've ever been to that place, it's very damaging, it's paralyzing, it's destructive. And so if there is a process to become hopeless, I wanted to find out, is there a process back to hope? And that's what really motivated the book. And my journey of staying hopeful through some of the downs that I've been through really inspired a lot of it as well.
Well, there's a lot of good stuff to unpack there for sure. When you say people that weren't like you or didn't look like you, what does that mean?
So a lot of times so I'm biracial, and a lot of times being a woman, I am often the very first speaker that ever comes into an event space, whether it's a school, organization. I am usually the first woman someone has ever hired. And then being biracial, there's another layer to that. So there's part of my identity, but there's also part of my experience that I haven't heard about in the spaces that I wanted to be in. So I wasn't just someone who had things happen to me. I did a lot of bad things. I was in rehab before I was 21. I was almost kicked out of undergrad. I dropped out of grad school 3 times. So there were also things on my end that were separate from part of my identity that I wasn't seeing other people who were, I guess, such screw ups and failures and people who just yeah messed up a lot doing some of the things and achieving some of the things like a PhD, that were in those spaces talking about it.
Through it all, you never gave up hope.
Yeah. I'm still swinging.
So tell me a little bit about hope. And it is certainly, I don't know if it's a squishy word, but it's certainly not a really hard word.
Yeah, we don't think of it as like this scientific, like hard evidence to be as powerful as it is. But yeah, the science behind it is it activates the part of our brain that it helps us with the direct circuits to be motivated, to regulate, to plan and problem solve. So it's like the single greatest determination of being successful and finding ways to cope better, perform better, adapt, recover, problem solve. And we know it's true because we know what happens when we feel hopeless in front of a problem. We're not going to have the motivation, the problem solving. We're not going to strategize. So when we realize how damaging hopelessness can be, then we can start to realize just how powerful hope is. And there's also, it's a cognitive science. And so what the book is about is it's about emotional habits, habits that can bridge that that big gap sometimes when we feel like, oh, we're hopeless 1 minute and hopeful the next. It's helping us build a bridge so that if we do feel hopeless, we have a way back to hope. And it doesn't solve our problems, but it activates the parts of our brain that help us to solve problems.
It positions us to at least take a crack at solving the problem.
Yes. And to get back up after you dropped out or you failed or, whatever it is.
So it is the enemy of grit, hopelessness, and without question, a pathway directly to apathy.
I am thinking that's the new book title, The Enemy of Grit. Thank you, George. We're changing the title. I loved that.
So that certainly makes sense to me. And so you talked about there is a path to hopelessness, and if such
Mhm.
a path exists, and there's a path to hopefulness, what is the
Mhm.
path to hopelessness?
Yeah, the we see it manifesting in ways like burnout, discouragement, but yeah, the ultimate I don't want to call it doom, but is what you said, apathy, where we're not feeling anything. That's the very, very dangerous place to be. And that's when we might make decisions that we would not normally make if we were aligned with something we valued. And I did a lot of crisis work, especially during the pandemic. I built and ran a crisis hotline in the height of isolation and the pandemic, and heard stories from people from Asia, Africa, Europe, all over the country. And it was really it was dangling on the what I call the edge of like feeling apathetic. And that's the scary place. But in them reaching out for support, that gave them that glimmer of hope.
Which makes all the sense in the world, just saying, I need help.
Mhm.
I'm struggling. I'm circling the drain here. And if you are totally in hopelessness, you probably just go right down the drain. But if you have that little glimmer of maybe there's another chance or there's an escape route or some help I can get, and I put my hand up, it can
Yeah.
kind of pull you out of that.
And the what you said that is the most important that I heard that I want people to like really lean into is you said tiny glimmer of hope, because that can help us debunk that you have to have a ton of hope or you have to be like super positive to be like a hopeful person. It's a tiny glimmer, right? It's
Mhm.
like the little seed. It's those little moments where we interrupt the thought cycle that starts to drag us to a place of despair and ultimately apathy. It's interrupting that with the little moments, the little glimmers.
Well, that certainly makes sense. I've you hear about people feeling so disenfranchised and left out, like they've been sold a bill of goods. I've got all this college debt and a worthless degree, and I can't buy a house. I can't find a job. And I'm like, my goodness, what a terrible thing. We have this huge chunk of people, like young people under the age of 40, that are feeling that way. And I'm interested in helping, but you obviously are way more interested because you wrote this book, you created this program.
Yeah. Whew. I mean, even you saying that, it's like a reminder of like, yes, 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 doom and gloom. I actually had I was at a very like prestigious Ivy League university and I was working with all of the incoming freshmen, so like, over 1,000 people in the audience. And at the end, someone raised their hand and said, with all this doom and gloom that you just described, how do we have hope? And that was actually something that helped propel me to write the book. Is the journey of discovering that is part of building hope. The mere fact that that person can recognize the doom and gloom, because there's no hope without honesty. You got to be real. You got to recognize all the obstacles, right? And then they still were curious. They were curious about what they were capable of in spite of the chaos, the obstacles, the disorientation, the debt. And that alone, that is powerful. Staying curious in spite of the obstacle is powerful.
No doubt
And
about that.
that propelled them to redirect their thought patterns. They interrupted maybe internalizing that thought, withholding, suppressing this doom and gloom, and then they threw it out there with curiosity. And now they're on a new journey and their thought patterns are reshaping. And that's what the habits are about. It's about really interrupting those thought patterns and staying curious about what we're capable of with hope.
Interrupt, stay curious, and fascinating, sad, crazy that you're at an Ivy League university. You've been accepted as a student. You are in the 1%, yet you are still feeling that way.
That's what was mind-boggling because I bring people I say I'm more of a like I come alongside people as opposed to just speaking at them. I don't do traditional lectures. I do a lot of facilitation, a lot of live real-time interaction. And I brought several students up on stage with me. And when they wanted to talk, I let them have the floor. I'm like, what do you guys want to talk about? And it was that they just felt here they are being accepted and they all feel inadequate. They're all feeling like they don't deserve to be there. Who am I? Like all this pressure just compounding with what's going on in the world, and it was just crushing them. So my journey with them is to come alongside them and to acknowledge that, but also widen our perspective of like pressure can crush us, but it also, if you think of a rocket ship, it can propel us.
Hmm.
And so it's allowing them to have a process to navigate all the emotions, and none of them are a waste. We can take anger, pain, frustration, and we can have an habit number 5 and repurpose them, rechannel them, and build and implement things in the world that we wish were there.
Which is so powerful. And it's also a wonderful reminder that just because you look at Elon Musk's kids or Michael Jordan's children and think, oh, they're so lucky. Well, not necessarily. And just because somebody's at the Ivy League doesn't mean that they're immune to these things or that their experience is any more or less any other human beings on planet Earth. It is just different.
Yeah. And the unique thing about feeling the way we feel is we often feel alone in how we feel, but we're not alone in that, right?
No doubt about it. We have we are in good company when we are feeling those things, when we're feeling insecure, unworthy,
Hmm.
unsure,
Yes.
concerned, scared, hopeless, even.
Yeah. I tell my kid, I'm like, it's weird if you're not weird. I find it very suspicious if there's nothing weird about someone.
Yeah. What a waste of time.
You're too perfect for me. Are you in this AI world? Are you real? I don't know.
Yeah. And we seem to want to just so many people. I don't even know if it's true or not. Society or media or whatever saying you're supposed to be all the same and black people are this way and white people are this way and da 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 da. But why would I want to be just like everybody else? Why would I want to get what everybody else gets? I don't. I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I actually was at a conference recently, and afterwards, I did the opening keynote for this leadership conference for students from all over the world at their universities. They came to this conference, and a student afterwards came up to me. I believe they went to Harvard, and they were just struggling because they're like, I'm not like anyone else. And I looked at that, I'm like, thank God. You know, yes, this
Great
is this
job.
is the good stuff. Yes, you don't want to be like anyone else. That you're in the right lane. Stay in your lane. That is the right lane and the only lane. And that's why the habits of hope, they're attached to a value system and your sense of worth. Because if we can stay in alignment as opposed to just following, I know we're in a follow culture, but if we can stay in alignment with things we value, then no matter where we are on our path, even if we feel lost, like externally, internally, we'll have some peace and some security and a sense of stability.
I love it. And I'm also a giant fan of that just do it. It's a great slogan for selling sneakers, but if I don't know how to do it, then I can't just do it. And so you just stop feeling so hopeless. Just, get your head right. Well, that doesn't, I don't know how. And
Mm-hmm.
so as you're talking, I'm picking up that you're giving us really frameworks, these habits for how to actually do it instead of just encouraging people to do it.
Yeah, and you actually already outlined one. I don't know if you know you did this, but each of the habits is paired with a feeling framework to help us practice it in real time. And one of them is in order to receive, we fill in the blank of I need. So, what would support look like or feel like for you in that moment? And another one that I often have people answer is I'm staying silent because this helps us identify what is blocking us from even receiving whatever that is that we need. So it's identifying why we stay silent. And so those are little frameworks that I call the feeling frameworks, things you can prompt yourself with, ask yourself when you're struggling, why am I staying silent? What would support look like or feel like for me right now? And just simple things like that. Again, it interrupts those thought cycles that can start to steer us to a place of where we start to feel overwhelmed, discouraged, and we start checking out.
Which is so common and something that we all do, whatever your age is, whatever experiences you've had, that's a very human thing. And I'm sure that that's certainly something that you probably get across is, hey, what you're experiencing is not uncommon, and that's good news because that means that you can start to feel a different way if you choose.
Yeah. I mean, if it even just personalizes this even more for someone, like I was checking out last night. I had a rough night. I'm like, oh man, how are we gonna get to my kids have had the flu, both of them for like over a week, and I had to cancel everything last week. It's just been a lot. And there's a part where the temptation to stay, let that go to the next thought, to the next thought, to the next thought, where I don't show up, where I'm not fully present with you right now. And I had to take these habits myself, and I had to have what I call I practiced the habit of release this morning. So I went and I poured some things out. To me that looks like writing, to you that might be running. It could look different for everyone, but I have to implement them in a way that's approachable for my lifestyle so that I keep sustaining hope, because I know what happens when I get down that rabbit hole. I call it the dark place of being hopeless.
So the famous saying is, teach a person to give a person a fish, you feed them for the day, teach them to fish, you feed them for their lives. And I am such a proponent of self-management and becoming a good self-manager, but these are skills and a muscle like anything else. You need to learn it and then exercise it. And it sounds like this is such beautiful self-management that you are helping to teach people to employ so that they can get better at it and so that they can do this on their own once they learn everything that you teach them in the book and you're speaking and everything else.
Yeah, I love how you said that, because I refer to it a lot as a muscle. Yeah, it's a mental muscle. These habits are emotional habits, and it's something you strengthen so that you have tools. So the next time you're struggling with a problem in front of you or an obstacle, you have some tools, and you got some reps in. So maybe you can lift more than you think, or your recovery is faster.
And like David Goggins tells us, you can always do more than you think.
Amen. Yes, I believe that this journey is about discovering what we're capable of. And I'm shocked at the things that I witness and have had the privilege to do myself by not giving up hope.
Yeah, well, you're certainly evidence. I mean, just going to your website is very uplifting, and the impact that you're having and all the work that you've done is super cool. And I appreciate the way that you structured the book and the impact that it's having. So, Dr. J, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people learn more about you? How can they engage? Where can they get a copy of your book, The Five Habits of Hope?
Yeah, well, journey with me, journey with Dr. J. All my socials are my name, Dr. Julia Garcia, and you can find me anywhere from Spotify. This book is on audio, so if you like to listen to my voice right now, I did do the audio, which it's an incredible, the sound engineering work. It's an incredible industry. So I love it. I always pitch the audiobook because it was so much work and such a beautiful outcome. And yeah, you can get the book anywhere books are sold. And it is a beautiful gift book. I'm not sure when this is airing, but if you are still looking for a gift, give the gift of hope, because it is a beautiful book.
We can give gifts anytime. So,
Yes.
and the gift of hope is a universal thing that we don't need that for birthdays, or you can just because. So, well, if you enjoyed this as much as I did, show Julia your appreciation. Share today's show with a friend who also appreciates good ideas, and share this book with somebody who appreciates good ideas. Go to drjuliagarcia.com. It's DrJulia Garcia.com. Check out everything that Julia is up to and all of her speaking and just opportunities to engage. And then pick up your copy of The Five Habits of Hope wherever you like to buy your books, and particularly pick up that audio.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. And to you listening, never lose hope.
I love it. Until next time, remember, do your part by doing your best.